I want to show you this tweet from Ben Davison. He says, minus 60 BZ will send us into the Stone Age if this doesn't break in the next hour or two. Fingers crossed. No time for anything but praying the red line gets smaller. Red line must go down now. Someone responded, please elaborate for us plebeians. And he said, if this doesn't end, the world does tonight. This is in reference to the G4 geomagnetic storm, the strongest solar flare of 2025. In fact, it was so intense, people were posting photos of, let me see if I have, where's that photo at? A photo of an aurora borealis in this part of the country, this time of year. That's right, in Florida with a palm tree. Now, many people were enjoying the lights. I saw photos from friends and acquaintances all across this country. They saw the aurora as far south as Texas and Florida. How is that possible? The storm was so intense that Ben was saying this could end us, and we narrowly missed it. I want to bring Ben in to tell us exactly what's going on. As soon as I saw this, I hit up my crew and I was like, guys, we got to get Ben on. I got to talk to him about this. And so let's boot it up right now and bring in Ben, who can break down for us exactly what is going on. Ben, how's it going?
It is going well. It's been a long 3 or 4 days, but calm is ensuing once again.
The world almost ended? Is that what happened?
There was a scary point where if the data had stayed where it was much longer, we would have had some serious grid issues. Luckily, it was only a few minutes later before the data started to come back to something that is a little less horrifying. Basically, during the impact from these solar storms the last couple of days, and there were 3 of them, during the initial impact, the disruption to Earth's magnetic field was at a level where if that had persisted for 4 or 5 hours, you and I would not be having this conversation right now. The grids would have gone down. Luckily, it only lasted about 8 or 9 minutes.
Wow.
But it was a scary 8 or 9 minutes.
So I'm chilling, and all of a sudden I see everyone talking about the storm is coming. I'm sitting on my couch. I was sick the past couple of days, and I see these posts showing the aurora is going to be visible for most of the United States, either on the horizon or directly above you. And we had clouds here in West Virginia, so I didn't see anything. But I see all these photos posted by people. One, I think you retweeted, where someone's got a palm tree in Florida and they can see the aurora. This is not normal. I mean, I in my life, I don't think I've ever experienced something like that. So people are all talking about how they were able to see the northern lights. How strange is that for something like that to occur?
Auroras seen down there has happened maybe 10 times in a century.
Wow.
It's happened 5 times in the last 2.5 years. And what's even scarier is what the sun is doing is nothing like what caused those events over the last century. And as you and I have had a conversation about a couple of times before, Earth's magnetic field is weakening. We're in the middle of a magnetic pole shift, also known as a geomagnetic excursion. And that is allowing everything that the sun throws at us to hit more impactfully. It's like we have less armor on, so everything that gets thrown at us hits harder than it should, harder than it would have, say, 50, 70 years ago. And that's what's causing the auroras to be seen so much more often and to such a much greater extent. When you look forward and say, okay, what happens if this continues? You start to have that, okay, the grids are in trouble. Okay, everything electrical is in trouble. GPS, internet, water purification,
Wow.
Food systems, refrigeration, 911, heating, air conditioning, everything like that is at risk as this situation moves forward.
I remember this. I think most of the people watching probably do. Over the past several years, there's constantly these graphics showing North America, and it's like, here's where the aurora will be visible. There have been several instances in the past couple of years. What do you say, 5 times in 2 years?
Yes.
I remember these. And I remember the last one before this, we're in West Virginia, and we were just at the line where you could see it on the horizon. And I was like, oh, man, I wish we were in Chicago or New York. We would have been able to see it. Now it went way past us. Unfortunately for us, we had clouds, so I didn't see anything. But people are posting all these crazy pictures. Never in my life until now has something like this been happening. Even when, what's crazy is I went to Alaska, I think it was 2 years ago now, and I was in Fairbanks with my wife, and we saw the regular old aurora borealis, and it's not like the photos. It's relatively faint, and you can sort of see the lines in the sky, and I was like, hey, look at that, and then it disappears in a minute. These photos that we're seeing, the whole sky is pink. Like, even when you look at the photos of a regular aurora, you can see like waves. This is the whole sky being pink. Is that a specific kind of aurora? What is that?
Absolutely. So the color is actually a dead giveaway. It is not just that they're being seen more often. It's not just that they're being seen at a broader extent than they should be. And it's not just that the sun isn't throwing anything terrible at us. It's just our planet is weak. It's that the colors tell us how much energy is coming in and how deeply it's penetrating down into the atmosphere.
Wow.
And that's getting worse and worse. Normally, it should be mostly green. When we get a huge surge, that's when you get the tons of red up high. And when there's really deep penetration, that's when you get the pink down even at the bottom as well. We're seeing this again, way more often than we should, from solar storms that shouldn't be producing them. And again, as a broken record, it's because our planetary magnetic field is on its way down in the ongoing pole shift right now.
Okay, so do you think, I showed your tweet where you said if the red line doesn't go down, the Earth ends tonight or something like that.
Yeah.
Do you think, what would you give the probability of, actually, let me start here. That was a G4 storm. It's been reported. Is a G5 storm a guarantee of our grid going down?
No, it's not. We probably would have had a G5 storm if the final impact last night hadn't hit with literally the most perfect magnetism. But it's interesting, the way the magnetic field within these solar storms can be, if it's pointed one way, it wants to bounce off Earth's protection and Earth is safer. Another direction of the magnetic field, it wants to pierce. It wants to penetrate and really impact our field more. The final one, which actually was the biggest one of all, last night actually had the perfectly safe magnetism, or else we probably would have had a G5 storm last night, and then it would have been a 50-50 chance of grids going down.
But grids going down in this scenario, it's recoverable. It just means we got to fix them, right?
Probably. So let's say last night's impact had been the bad magnetism and it had been maybe 50% stronger, I would be concerned that it's a total grid down situation and we're back in the Stone Age.
So like you're saying, like everything on the planet, wouldn't it just be one side of the planet?
No, because it's actually an induction throughout the whole thing. When you see the auroras, you can't see around the whole planet, but it's actually a ring that's going all the way around. And it is that actual ring of energy going around the planet that causes the electric currents to surge through the lower atmosphere and the crust. And it is actually worst on the dusk to midnight quadrant. Nobody really knows why, but it is a whole Earth thing, and it's actually worse from dusk to the midnight quadrant of the planet.
Can you explain why, if this storm hits, why would it put us in the Stone Age? Why would the grid go down? Why would electronics not work?
Sure. So what this actually is this is an enormous injection of electromagnetic energy from the sun that hits us in a very short, impulsive impact. This is the exact same way that an EMP works, even though the mechanism is different. In a high altitude nuclear explosion, for example, the X-rays send an electron cascade that overcharges everything and blows circuits, things like that. In a solar storm, that energy hits the planet as a whole and causes electric currents to start moving around inside of it.
Wow.
And those electric currents, if strong enough, can cause things to go out of sync. They can cause circuits to explode. They can cause overcharging. They can cause arcing. A number of problems can occur during these electrical issues.
Wow. It's never really explained. People just say, like in movies, like an EMP, and then all of a sudden your car doesn't work anymore. So, like, what's basically happening is, like, if you have a computer, electrons flow through the circuit boards and power from the power source, but when it gets hit by the solar storm, it's like that energy is going into all those wires and cables. Is that what's happening?
Exactly. And, obviously, if your laptop, for example, were to get hit by a bolt of lightning, it's not going to work anymore. But you also should know that something a little less than a bolt of lightning electrically would also destroy the circuits, the motherboard, things like that. That's what we're talking about here. It's not like there's going to be bolts of lightning going through everything. It's that subtle to not so subtle electric currents that aren't in this arc lightning mode start surging through everything at ground level. And unfortunately, us and our technology are here at ground level.
Will a Faraday cage save my devices?
Maybe. If it's the kind of thing where we just cross the line and grids are going down, maybe it will. I don't know how you're going to use them after the batteries run out because you won't have any power for them. But if it's like a titanic super flare from the sun, which we know the sun does, then no, even a Faraday cage wouldn't stop anything.
Okay, but hold on. What if I build a Faraday cage? Inside of that is a smaller Faraday cage, and inside of that is an even smaller one. I put my phone in that. Then maybe?
Yeah. Absolutely. Sure. Why not? Why not?
We're finding answers here, brother.
Yeah. Once you get to 3 Faraday cages, you have the protection of Jesus for all electronic devices inside.
The building that we're in here is this big steel structure, and phones don't work inside. So we're in a mini Faraday or an accidental Faraday cage as it is. But I know people who have dug holes. They fill them. They put stuff in a microwave, and then they put it in the hole. And then they cover it with like heavy metal or something because they're like, it's for when the big one hits. I'm not entirely sure that's going to do it for you, but hey, people are trying, right? And then you make a good point. How are you going to charge it anyway?
Exactly. If there is stuff that, you have batteries or you do want to protect, I recommend plastic or rubber, actually. Current isn't going to jump past the plastic and the rubber. And it's really what you're trying to do is you're trying to avoid the global scale electric currents from jumping to you or to your to your electronics. You put them in a plastic box. It's like water. Obviously we know water erodes, but if a wave is coming at a rock, it's going to go around it. And electricity does the same thing. This is why we coat all of our electrical wires in plastic. Electricity and water are lazy. They don't want to work to go where they're going. They just want to go the nice, easiest path. You put whatever you have in a plastic or something rubber, the electricity is not going to jump to it. It wants to go around it. It doesn't want any problems. It doesn't want to have to do any work.
Interesting. So we see these, it's like 2 days of this massive aurora that has kind of, a lot of people are like, why am I seeing a pink sky right now in, Illinois or whatever? You've been talking about how we're facing a pole shift. It's going to keep getting worse. What's going on and what's your timeline? Do you think in our lifetimes we're going to see some kind of catastrophic event?
I would be surprised if we didn't. I had put our chances of seeing such a catastrophic event because of this pole shift at only around 25% during this sunspot cycle. Sunspot cycles are 11 years long. We are at the peak of one right now. It's going to go down in about 5 years and then come back up in 5 more. In maybe a little less than a decade, we're going to be seeing the next peak of solar activity. That's when I'm worried because Earth's magnetic field is steadily doing this. And while it's enough for us to see the signs. And it was enough for me 6-7 years ago to say, hey guys, when the sun wakes up, we're going to be seeing signs every time it throws something at us. I still think we're going to make it through, but it's going to be blatantly obvious that something's not right. That is where we are right now. And my forecast for 10 years from now hasn't changed.
We definitely desperately need it. The internet is frying people's brains, social media. Let's get back to farming, taking care of animals, living simple lives. I'm half kidding. The death and destruction from the big one will be, do you think about this stuff? Obviously, you're tracking solar weather and the pole shift stuff, but have you actually sat down and gone over how many people would die if the power went out?
Yes, absolutely. I think that The U.S. government's analysis from about a decade ago is not terrible. They said within about 6 months, 90% of humans would be gone. I
Whoa!
think that that's pretty accurate, and it's because of our reliance on heat in cool places.
Yep.
We require technology and electricity to purify water and to distribute water to homes. Agriculture, the refrigeration of food, um, transportation, information, the internet, there's not nuclear plants.
Wow.
Imagine what happens when all the cooling at every nuclear plant in the world fails.
Woo!
That's what we're looking at right here.
So 90% in 6 months. And this was if a pole shift happens, or is this the big solar flare?
This is if the sun cooks the grids.
There was some documentary about, I forgot what it was called. It was a series in the 2000s, Life After Human, something I think it was called. One of the theories was that house cats take over the planet because they reproduce like crazy and they hunt for fun. So they start decimating and wiping out animals nearby and then reproduce like crazy.
You know, that's the first time I've heard of that, but just right off the bat, that sounds perfectly plausible.
I knew somebody who once, his mom would put out a big bag of food for cats because there was like 1 or 2 cats. And then within like 6 months, there were like 30 cats. And then a year later, there were like hundreds of them. Just kept feeding them. So you're not just talking about the big solar flare, the pole shift. With the pole shift comes what, like an axis shifting, the planet moves, or what?
I think that there's a lot of evidence for that. That's one of the crazier things to wrap one's head around. But when you review the evidence that convinced Einstein, when you review some of the government documents, and when you just think about the mammoths, you and I have had this conversation, I think. Think about the mammoths they found frozen in 20, 30 feet of ice up there at the Arctic with food undigested in their mouths and stomachs. And the question is, how did they freeze so quickly? I think the better question is, what were they eating? Because they were frozen in the glacial cycle, which means if they had to dig them out of 20 to 30 feet of ice today, how much ice was there then? There was no vegetation. They weren't eating anything. That they had to have been at low latitude, and then the planet put them at the poles to freeze instantly, or else they wouldn't have been there.
Is the ice they're digging them out of, is that salt water, or is that fresh water?
There's not a ton of salt in that water, I don't think.
Right, that's why I asked. Because then the question is, where does that water come from? How do they get buried in it?
Well, during the pole shift, there should probably be a phenomenal amount of evaporation and precipitation across the world. One of these events is probably what happened during the Noah event. And so something like, I mean, is it going to be exactly 40 days and 40 nights of rain? I don't know.
Wow.
But something like that, and at high latitude, snow, not just 40 days and nights of rain, but snow as well. I think that could accumulate to something pretty fantastic.
What's the official explanation for why these mammoths have undigested plant matter in their guts?
There isn't one.
It makes no sense.
Scientists have tried to recreate it. They even tried doing things that they couldn't recreate. They did a computer model of what happens if you took the mammoth and you ejected it into the frozen vacuum of space. The mouth food would freeze, but in the stomach, it wouldn't freeze fast enough.
So this is a much faster freeze than even the void of space or absolute zero?
That is one possible interpretation. So here's something else, and this is where we could go off the rails. If you want to get into it, you can look up something called plasma cooling. Plasma, charged particles, they can heat stuff up, but they can also cool things down very rapidly, almost like a freeze gun. It's not out of the question. Whether human technology could get there, I don't know. But in space, and when we're talking about the power of the planet and the sun, and this kind of event, we could be looking at something that could instantly freeze everything within a plasma field.
So I do want to stress this too. I can't stand these movies. Like the Guardians of the Galaxy did this twice, where first Star-Lord he gets ejected into space and starts freezing and ice is forming on your body. Does not happen. Does not happen. You actually boil because the vacuum Boiling temperature, I think, is 63 degrees Fahrenheit for the human body, and the gases closer to the surface of your body will boil, and you do freeze. You do freeze, though. But it's through the heat loss is through radiation, not through standard convection. So actually, that makes sense that a mammoth in space is not going to freeze nearly as quickly as if it was chucked into a block of ice or at the poles or something.
Right, right. I would agree, especially since while it is very cold up there, obviously, without a lot of molecule to molecule interaction, there's nothing to wick the heat away.
Yeah.
You know, the heat has to be carried away by something. So
what's I think the first time you came on our show, you mentioned Indonesian glaciers, and I was like, what? And we pulled it up, and there's gigantic glaciers in the mountains of Indonesia. And what's the official explanation for that?
Well, the official explanation is not terrible, that they're leftovers from the glacial cycle, which ended about 12,000 years ago. And, you know, Indonesia is not the only place in the tropics. Africa's got tropical glaciers, and South America has tropical glaciers as well.
Wow.
They are remnants of the last one. The reason why this is important, however, is because it really seeks to address the issues of how old ice is on this planet. So, for example, they once thought that the Tibetan ice caps, you know, in the Himalayas, had to be over 500,000 years old. They just went and looked again with a different kind of isotope and said maximum age possible is only 17,000 years. Now, to go from older than 500,000 to it's got to be younger than 17,000, it really tells us that what they have told us about the history of our planet and how quickly things occur, how dramatically they occur, and the extent, I'm not sure that they've come anywhere close to it, because this planet has seen not just the slow crawl of wind and water and geology and precession, but those periods punctuated with events of rapid cataclysmic change.
So I don't believe in chemtrails or anything like that, but there are some people asking in relation to this, could it be the government doing nanoparticles and chemtrails because the magnetosphere is weakening? They're trying to put particles in there to try and do something?
That's been my biggest hypothesis as to why they would do it. Now, the pushback I get is, what are you saying, Ben? Are you a fan of them then? Do you like the people who are doing it? And I'm like, no. They just want to be at the top of the pyramid for as long as humanly possible until this all collapses. There's even a lot of evidence to suggest they're not ready for it yet. They're sort of, it's almost like they've been caught off guard. It's why Clown World exists right now, where before you basically had to be listening to Alex Jones 25 years ago to have a damn clue what was going on. Now everything is so obvious. They're going at light speed.
Yep. Have you tracked the renovations at Mount Weather?
No, I haven't.
But you know what Mount Weather is?
Yeah.
For those that aren't familiar, you've got Raven Rock and Mount Weather, the publicly known deep underground bases for government officials to escape to in the event of a major disaster. And a few years ago, they announced major renovations at Mount Weather. I think if you know about it, it's not the real one. So they exist. And they probably are known about because members of Congress aren't that high up on the food chain in terms of government power. But I have to wonder about the real DUMBs, they call them, deep underground military bases. We know that billionaires have been building mountain bases in New Zealand, and you got Zuckerberg in Hawaii with his Wagyu farm. There are a lot of powerful, wealthy people building mountain bases. What do you think the government is doing? Then the question becomes, whether or not the government is doing it or not, whatever, fine. But the renovations at Mount Weather, as well as the millionaires and billionaires building underground bunkers, what's the reason for it?
So in the acknowledged underground areas, just the acknowledged ones in the United States, they could fit about 10 to 20 million people.
Wow.
Who knows how many people they could actually fit down there. Now, here's something. There's a lot of people in power who I think have bad intentions and are not good people. I don't think you can put that blanket on everybody who manages to get into politics or in a place of power. And in fact, some of them do wear white hats, in my opinion, And a lot of them believe in karma, like genuinely in their hearts believe in karma. There are plans to try to save as many human beings as possible. There are plans to have a continuity of government
Yep.
after this. And there are aspirations to have the United States of Earth after this.
You know, I got to be honest. If I was asked, if in a hypothetical situation, someone comes to me and says, the big storm is going to hit in 10 years, between 10 and 20 years. You have unlimited resources, whatever the humans can provide. What are you going to do? I think the reality is you can't save everybody. And it's not evil to be like, we have to choose, make a list of who we want to save. That's just a reality of surviving a cataclysm. So, if it is building deep underground bunkers, diverting resources, the honest question is, can you blame powerful people for trying to salvage as many humans as possible? Or would you just be mad it wasn't you? Or what do you do?
So, this is where the biggest difference is between a lot of thinking. There's what is optimal and what is pragmatically possible.
Yeah.
Optimally, you wouldn't put those decisions in the hands of humans. Optimally, you would be able to save everybody. At the end of the day, if it's going to get done, the decision's coming down to somebody. And somebody's going to have to be responsible for making sure the plan works and all this other things. And as much as we don't like it, the way you described it is exactly how you'd have to do it.
Yeah.
I mean, it's easy to watch the movie 2012 and be mad at the fat government guy. He's the only intelligent person in the entire movie.
Right.
He's the only one who says anything that makes any sense the entire movie.
This is the sad reality of humans. Even in our movies, the depiction is when you're the callous government official saying, close the gate now, you're the bad guy.
Yeah.
But the reality is, I watch these films and I'm like, what would you do? Would you have humanity be wiped out? Or would you save 20 million and say we can't let everybody in? And then, of course, in the movie, what is it like? The people break in and there's a disaster or whatever, because those are the protagonists. Those are the heroes. They're supposed to break in. I got to be honest. It may be a strange thing to say, but I'll put it like this: I would hope, in the event of a major cataclysm, the Ark or whatever they build has room for me and my family. I would also not be surprised to find out they don't, nor would I blame someone for not doing me the favor. It's just a reality of what can be accomplished. Now, of course, in our media and games, the government is always depicted as evil for doing this because they're going to be like, only the smartest get to survive, ha ha ha, and everyone else must perish. And I'm like, be pragmatic, be practical. Do you save everybody, or do you save only those who can carry their own weight? So what was your timeline was what, like 10 years for the big storm?
Yeah, I think we got about 10 years for the big storm, and the timeline for when the actual pole shift completes should be 20 to 25 years.
So what should the average person do? Final question.
For right now, don't do anything too stupid or crazy. You need to be able to survive and be carrying your own weight in this world right now. You can't be finding yourself homeless. You can't be finding yourself without a source of income. You can't be finding yourself getting, in trouble with the law and stuff like that. Be aware that this is coming and start thinking about or acquiring books about how people used to live, about, survival skills. Start thinking about getting some extra food, extra seeds, things like that. If you live in the United States and you don't have a gun, what are you even doing at this point? Stuff like that.
Right on.
The basics for now. The basics.
Where can people find you to follow for more?
Absolutely. The YouTube channel is Space Weather News. It's got that logo right there. Shouldn't be too hard to find. Right
on. And I really do appreciate you joining us today to talk about this, and we'll have you on soon.
It's always great to see you, Tim.
Likewise. Take care.
Bye.
Ben Davison, of course, he's been tracking all of this stuff. And what's funny is there's a lot of people that try to attack him as pseudoscience or whatever. And I'm like, actually, the things he's talking about when it comes to the coronal mass ejection, solar storms, they're all happening. You can see it. We literally saw the auroras. He's not making up that this stuff's happening. Whether or not his interpretations are correct is fine, but this is actual science. There are going to be a lot of people in the mainstream that are saying, nah, ignore all that. Nothing's happening. It's fine. And they reject it. But it'd be silly to reject it. It's fine to say, I'm going to give it less probability. I'm going to weigh it less. It's not going to be the centerpiece of my focus, but ignore it at your own peril. These things are possible, albeit rare. But sometimes you win the lottery. Sometimes you go to Vegas and you put down $15 on 26. And what happens? It hits. And you're like, what were the chances of that? Well, 1 in 37 for the most part. That's one of those really awful casinos where they have 000. Can you believe it? The point is this. Rare as it may be, we know these things do happen. So why act like it's impossible? Don't base your whole life on it. Don't do stupid things. Live your life. But pay attention. My friends, it's been a blast. Smash the like button. Share the show. Stay tuned because we are back tonight at 8 p.m. for Timcast IRL. Really do appreciate you guys being members of Rumble Premium, as well as members of our Discord at timcast.com. You make it all possible, so please join the Discord community today at timcast.com. Let me throw it out one more time. Wait, not that one. There we go. Timcast.com. Join us. $10 a month. And I got to be honest, guys, there's a bunch of different tiers, different benefits, and we're working every day to add more to the experience, to build community, because unity is our strength. Follow me on X and Instagram at Timcast. Thanks for hanging out. We're going to send you to hang out with Devore Darkins, who I believe is live now. Thanks again, and we'll see you all next time.